with another round of the Apex Online Racing Season 27, Round 9, COTA, Circuit of the Americas, Austin, Texas. We are joined by myself, Retro Ghost. Mr. Wufafa, aka Sick Note, has not attended this evening once again. He is still coughing and spluttering that nasty disease of COVID. And so just whilst we wait for the last few drivers to join the lobby, we will hopefully get underway very quickly. Just waiting for my thing to refresh to prove that we are streaming, because that's not what we want. We don't want a repeat of last week, as that was a very big skill issue, as per usual. I can confirm we are live this week, so I can give you the whole of the qualifying this week, which is what we want to see. So, absolute dominant display from the Mercedes last week. Persegidi taking P1. So his teammate, I'm not quite sure whether it was a reserve or someone stepping in for Mercedes, but say Rising Moon and Persegidi put an absolute dominant display in the Mercedes last week. So whether they can step up this week and hopefully score some good points. Not quite sure what happened in the AlphaTauri locker room in the garage. Maybe there was a bit of a upset for Portugal. As I say, it is a very tight technical track and it will chew you up and spit you out, but nonetheless we do have Texas this week. I will try give you the absolute best of corner names and aspirations, but we do have Mr. Greg in the comments as always. He may be sick, but he's always there to take cover. As I always a pleasure, buddy. I'll try and give the absolute best. I don't have a steward's book like you do for corner names, but we're going to give it a go. And so just whilst we wait for a few more drivers to join, we do have quite some interesting facts whilst we wait underway. COTA, the Circuit of Americas, nonetheless has the original layout when the track has been built, has been moved quite a few times since it's been built, which is quite interesting to see. And most of the corners from COTA have been taken from best sections of historic tracks across Europe. So you've got Maggots and Beckett's sequence, Maggots Beckett's Chapel sequence from Silverstone, and a few corners also inspired from the Senna S at Interlagos and the Sebring Aspuff curve. I probably just butchered that saying. Hopefully we don't have any people that might crucify me for it, but we're going to give it our absolute best. So hopefully we should be going underway very soon. I know I started a little bit early, but just wanted to make sure that I can give you the whole of qualifying this week and not half of it, because apparently I can't hit a big red button that says stream. Well, I did, but it didn't work. It must have been faulty. I blame Greg. 100% blame Greg. And so if you are new to the stream, do make sure you do smash that button to follow and like the stream. And so if you do want to get involved in Discord, I'm pretty sure the admins will add a Discord link to the comments. So if you do want to pick up some of the F1 racing we do, or ACC, or Gran Turismo 7, or a lot of the wide variety of games we do host, please do hit that link in the comments once the admins do upload it. But I just see Greg in the comments. Whilst I'm there not to defend myself, I don't think I can read that out. Not whilst I'm live anyway. And so some of the drivers are starting to ready up, and hopefully we can get underway very soon. And so as already mentioned, Mercedes with a very dominant performance last week. Persegidi taking P1, his teammate Rising Moon in P2. I'm not quite sure whether that was a reserve or a full-time seat from Rising Moon, but we have Rivershan back in Mercedes this week, so hopefully he can carry up that high spirit of a P1 and a P2 from Portugal. AlphaTauri hopefully going to return, quite a few disconnections and connection problems last week, but hopefully they can make full use of COTA. Just whilst we wait for the lobby to load. So it's nice to see a good mixture of variety of drivers this evening as well, whether say speed or corners is going to come into play, especially that tricky sector 1, say that S section, aspired from the centre S section as well, or say the Maggots and Beckett's section from Silverstone. So that sector 1 is very tricky, whether you sacrifice speed for the straights or you take corners to just be nimble and agile. So just whilst we wait for the drivers to pick their setups, we will see who's going to go out on track first. And we will make sure we'll try and get the absolute best data we can, because that's what we do. So who's going to be the first out this week? It was, I believe an AlphaTauri last week, or a Haas as normal, but I don't think we do. Oh no, we do have a Haas this week. We do have both of them. I'm being a bit blind today. Should have gone to Specsavers, but unfortunately didn't get a deal on. And so, as I mentioned, it's Solid Ninja Snake in the Haas is the first one out, so we'll stick on board with him just whilst he warms his tyres up for his outlap. Going round into turn 1. A very tricky turn 1, spotting his braking point very nicely. Coming out the pits, this tricky section of sector 1, tight, nimble. Whether drivers are going to pick speed or corners, just to help with the improvements of that tricky sector there. So another point, so the DRS detection zone is downhill section into this very tight hairpin left. Spotting his point very nicely, getting on the power very nicely, using all the curbing as much as you can. I know it is only a outlap, but I'm pretty sure he would have kept it legal anyway, which is great to see. So F1, as the weather is hopefully going to stay dry, no flashbang sun, as they have experienced in previous F1 games where you come down this back straight and you are blinded by the sunshine. But hopefully none of that today. But as long as I hope it stays dry and we have a fantastic race this evening. And so just going over the drivers, we do have AVT Pasti and Pedro tonight, both Red Bull drivers, which is great to see. Creamer, another household favourite in his Aston Martin back light year. So Creamer had a big problem with disconnecting last week, but just about managed to put on a great show with Tezic, I believe, or it was the other McLaren driver. I got my tongue tied then. So towards the end of the race, they had a great bit of battling of yo-yoing between the drivers. And so we just missed Solid Ninja Snake start his lap, but we'll stay on him just whilst he is the only car on the first one of to start a lap. Use as much of the curbing as he can through that sector 1. Just about keeping it legal. I say at the time it is a purple sector 1 because he's the only car to have set a purple sector 1. I say DRS is now going to come into play on this lap as he's on a qualifying lap. Bit of a loosey-goosey rear end from the Haas. As long as you don't Hulk smash the door. Getting it down the straight, DRS wide open down the straight. As I might have just jinxed it, Creamer has disconnected from the session. Hopefully he can rejoin back in time to set a lap, and hopefully it wasn't impeded. Or sorry, going to impede his race too much tonight. And so Solid Ninja Snake again, keeping it very nice through this very tricky sector here. So the sector, I believe, which is inspired from the Interlagos S's. And so, because the Americas do love taking each and different track styles from previous tracks, and it has been moved. But so here we have Solid Ninja Snake rounding turn 20 to the start straight with a 133.5 to start off this qualifying session. We do have an Alpine behind him. Phoenix just rounding the final corner now. Can he improve and beat that time of 133.5? No, he doesn't. 134.2. Who we got behind him? We do have Super Jesse with a 134.5. Oh, excuse me, I just had some dinner before we started the stream. Amateur move, I think we've got Max Duca just coming across the final corner. Is he going to beat that time? He does with a 133.2, provisional P1. So you've got Backlight here to infinity and beyond, coming around the final corner. Sets a 135.5, Riversham behind him, getting a toe from Backlight here, but we've just been interrupted by AVT Pasty with a 132.8, the first driver to break into the 32s this evening. Where's the man to beat? Persegili coming around the final corner of turn 22, the start straight finish. 132.6, ladies and gentlemen, there he is. The man on a mission. Pedro, the Red Bull teammate to AVT Pasty, just slightly behind that time with a 132.7. Both good times from the Red Bull drivers at the moment. Solid in a second, I think just coming in from a lap. Yep, he's going to dive into the pits. Tezic just starting his out lap, and a few drivers that are probably going to try to save some ERS or dive back into the pits and see how this qualifying session is going to unfold. So all eyes on that track of who's going to take the fight to Persegili, the man on a mission. He took P1 in Portugal last week. He's going to want to get as much points as he can. I think that's an Alpine coming in. Oh no, it's an Alpine just about probably going to start another lap. Phoenix, is he going to go for another one? I think he is. Oh, we've got Creamer back. That's great to see. Creamer, a guy that could possibly upset the running of Persegili if he can keep it on track and in the session. That would be fantastic to see Creamer and Persegili have a great fight. Oh, as I just flicked onto Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane, P4 having a bit of a slip and slide in sector 3 as he dives into the pits, but I think it was a bit of a connection problem there. Oh, excuse me. So AVT Passy, is he going to go for another move? Oh, sorry, another lap. Very tricky sector of sector 1. These S's will chew you up and spit you out and invalidate your time, but he does seem to be up on his time with nearly 2/10. So this would take him provisionally P1, possibly P2, if he can keep this time up and improve. Spotting his braking point for his tricky hairpin. So very nicely on the power of the exit, not getting all loosey-goosey on the rear. As own Top Gun references because we're in COTA of America, but I will try my best not to. But the Haas in front does spot a flying Red Bull down the back straight, spotting his points of braking very nicely there. Can he keep this time up? He is still just a slither of a 10th up on his time. Oh no, I think I must have just jinxed him. I think he must have cut a corner just ever so slightly there. He's invalidated. That's unfortunate to see. I think Phoenix has just finished a lap. Gulmarv has yet to set a lap with a 142.5. I think AlphaTauri might have something to say about that, but no teammate for AlphaTauri this evening. We'll want to see what's going to happen with the AlphaTauri jet fighters, whether they're going to take the fight to Persegili or whether it's going to be Creamer. But say Persegili is the man on top with a 132.6 at the moment. So we just flicked onto Creamer. The man has just set a purple sector 1. We're not quite sure whether that's a session or a personal at the moment, but we will stay on board with Creamer whilst he sets his lap. Spots his point of braking for the hairpin very nicely on the exit, not going to get all loose on the rear. Getting that DRS wide open down the back straight, flying down that straight. Is a Mercedes going to move out the way? Yes, he is. Great sportsmanship to see. Very nicely over the curb in there, using as much track as he can to get that car turned in. It's a purple sector 2 from Creamer, but I'm pretty sure that's just a personal. Okay, very nicely through his I might have just jinxed out there, but it was a very nice line through there. Just a little bit of a slip and a slide through that corner there, but nonetheless he is going to keep this car still rocketing towards the final corner of turn 20. He's going to get his car turned in towards the start straight. Is he going to improve on his time? He does set a respectable 133.2, but I think he knows he can improve on that. The man on pole, Persegidi, is on an outlap. Pedro is also on an outlap. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane is on an outlap. Oh, I think I just flicked onto Max Duca there, who's just set a purple sector 1, just nearly a tenth up on his time, just to prove how close these times are in sectors. So Max Duca sitting P6 at the moment. He is only just a tenth up on his time with the purple sector 1. Oh, excuse me, hiccups once again. Oh, it's a yellow flag. It's just drivers moving past. Let the guys on a hot lap go round. We've got Super Jesse. Is he going to improve on his time? Yes, he does, ever so slightly, with a 133.8. Persegidi just about to start his hot lap. So we will keep tabs on him whilst he goes round on his lap. It's a very tricky part of sector 1 to let cars pass. Not quite sure what's going there with the Haas of Sim Rally Monster. Very quite a tight, dangerous place to let cars pass, but he does have man on pole as it stands. Persegidi coming through this sector 1, the purple sector 1, with just under half a tenth improvement. Can he kill? Oh, slipping and sliding on the exit there. A man with the ability to keep the car still facing forward after going sideways. So getting his DRS wide open down the back straight. So there is a few cars in front of him. They're going to want to move out this man's way. He is not here to hang about. Persegidi spotting his point of braking, getting the car turned in very nicely. Use as much curbing as he can. He's 3 tenths up nearly on his time. This could be absolutely sensational. Getting the car turned in very nicely. Tricky camber part of that sector, or sorry, that corner there, will upset the car very much, but say Persegidi keeping it very forward, very straight. Spotting his points of braking to the last corner. Very nicely done. Can he improve on his time? I think he is. He does, nearly breaking into the 131s with a 132.1. Very nice lap from him. Well, we've got Pedro just behind him that did improve with a 132.5. It's great to see from him. His teammate is also on a lap as well. Currently just a tenth and a half nearly up on his time, but he's going to need to find a little bit more if he wants to overtake his teammate to start on the front row. So I think we will just stay on board with AVT Pasty. Just as the moment, we got Rivershan, who has invalidated. Phoenix, not quite sure. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane has split the Red Bulls. I'm pretty sure Christian Horner not to be too happy with that, but AVT Pasty is coming round the final corner. Is he going to improve on his time to rejoin his teammate? He does overtake Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane ever so slightly behind his teammate. I'm going to say it's a very good time from him with a 132.568. We've got Tezik, who just set a lap with a 134.0. Not quite sure what's happened to the AlphaTauris, but hopefully he can find some time to get towards the top of the leaderboard. So his AlphaTauri started the season with an absolute astounding performance round Zandvoort and Monaco, as they couldn't quite find the pace round Portugal last week, but say the Mercedes did slip in with a dominant force of a 1-2 finish in Portugal. And say Gormov is on his own this week, but say I wouldn't put it out of question whether Gormov might have a trick up his sleeve to take the fight to Persegidi. So we're coming to the last final few minutes of this qualifying session. So this week we are only running a short qualifying with a 50% race. So I'm not quite sure when the sprint race is coming back into play, but so this week alone we're doing a 50% race and a short qualifying. Right, excuse me, just take a quick drink before I start coughing, which is not what you've come to see. And obviously here, because no one likes to hear coughing, do they with Fafa doing an endurance race on ACC on a Tuesday, listening to Greg, bless him, cough his little heart out for 75 minutes. So quite a few drivers are making their final changes to hopefully get one more banker lap in. AVT Pasty has just started another hot lap. Super Jesse on an out lap, who will be starting a hot lap just in a second. Phoenix is, I think, trying to save some ERS for another lap as well. I know, buddy. I'm only joking. Hopefully you'll get well soon and you can show me how it's done with the corner names and the corner numbers, because I don't have an absolute clue. But AVT Pasty is coming down the DRS straight, getting our DRS wide open, just rounding these couple of corners to the end of sector 2. Is he going to be up on his time? Can he overtake his teammate? Or a bit of a slip and a slide. He is purple through sector 2. That will, as it stands, if he can keep this pace up, overtake his teammate for a spot on the front row. Oh, excuse me. So sector 3, AVT Pasty coming around his last couple of corners, using as much track as he can to get that Red Bull rocket turned into the final corner, spotting his acceleration point, keeping the car all straight forward. Does improve with his time with a 132.4. Great lap from him. So we've got Pedro, his teammate, on an out lap behind. And so there was a big queue of traffic as this qualifying session rounds out to a close. So it's not going to be the traffic you want with 45 seconds left of a qualifying session. You've got Gulmarv with a 132.9 sitting respectively on a P5 at the minute. I think he might have another quick lap or attempt as he has no traffic in front of him. The best place to be at the moment. Big queue of traffic coming down the start straight finish now. And we've got Super Jesse retiring in the pits. So all to play for his last couple of seconds of this qualifying session. So we will try to keep on board with everyone who's going to move around, chopping and changing positions. So the checker flag for the qualifying session has been waved. So this is essentially a one-shot quali with traffic, which isn't going to be ideal for a few drivers. So we've got Max Duca we've just flicked onto, up on a 10th of his time, which could respectively take him up a decent amount of time. Creamer, does he improve on his time? Not quite, no he doesn't. We've got AVT Pasty, don't think he's going to set a time. No he's not, it's Gulmarv. Gulmarv's 2/10 up on his time around these last couple of corners. We will try to flick through the pack as they come to the finish line. Gulmarv getting a very nice turn. Going a bit wide on the exit. He does improve on his time with a P4 with a 132.7. We've got the X. We've got back Lightyear getting all over the curbing towards the finish line. Are you going to improve on his time? Yes, he does with a 133.4. P8 for him at the moment. Pretty sure I just missed that. Solid Ninja Snake improving his time at a P6. Very nice lap from him. His teammate, Sim Rally Monster, as you know, is invalidated. Mouchelin, Mr. Smooth, is invalidated. Can Pedro improve? He has improved on his time by a tenth. Or I think he just dropped it on that final corner. Doesn't improve on his time by thousandths of a second. So there we have it. Perseghidi's diving back into the pits. Phoenix is diving back into the pits. But Perseghidi does take P1. AVT Pasty with a P2. Locking out the front row. Pedro and Gourmand P3 and P4. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelin P5. I'm sorry, Gourmand P4. Mr. Mouchelin P5. Solid Interstate P6. Max Duca P7. Creamer P8, Tezic P9, Backlightyear P10, Sim Rally Monster P11, Phoenix P12. Not quite sure what happened to Super Jesse and Rivershan, but I'm sure we might see something about it in the stewards room, or whether it was just a general tire from the session. So as I just mentioned, there's the time. Perseghidi with a rocket of a 132.1, nearly breaking into the 131s of Austin, Texas, COTA, Circuit of the Americas. We'll just quickly flick through the incidents for the stewards if they ever need it. And so, just hopefully we'll get underway with a feature race very soon. But so if you are in the comments or you are watching the stream, do smash that like button, drop a comment who you think is going to win, who's your money on. Not that we are a gambling society or anything like that, but if you did have the chance to put some money on one of our drivers tonight, who would it be and why? So just a couple of seconds before we get underway for the feature race. We are running formation laps, so we will have a little bit of time to get underway before the actual lights go green. Let's take another quick drink before my throat dies. Commentators can't have favourites and commentators can't bet. So we've got Mr. Greg in the stream 2-1 on Perseghidi. I think I probably would favour those odds, but the fact Moxie isn't here, I can't counter that. Because both those drivers are fantastic on and off track. The AlphaTauris and the Mercedes, absolute brilliant battle that we've had the pleasure of overseeing these last couple of rounds. I say nonetheless, some of these drivers that may not be some of the household favourites or top runners, but everyone has an equal chance of the top spots. Just because tyre strategy and racecraft come into play on a 50% race as much as it does on a 25% race. So we're just waiting for the drivers to select their strategies, their tyres, Ferrari strategies. Hopefully not going to come into play around Circuit of Americas, or brakes are going to overheat like Max's did, but that's a sore subject because I am a Red Bull fan, but hey ho. Speaking of Red Bull fans, Red Bull was the first team to drive round COTA, so that's quite interesting apparently. As I was reading through the fun facts before we started tonight's stream. Let's have a few more facts just whilst we wait. Yeah, Red Bull drove it first in 2011 when Circuit of Americas was just a building site. David Coulthard took the RB7 for a spin on the dirt and the gravel on his first lap in Texas, but we will have the formation lap just underway very quickly, and there we have the tyre strategy of the drivers. Interesting mix up of hards, mediums, and I do see a soft in the mixed, which is interesting to see. So possible race strategies for a one stop: you could do soft, medium, or you could do medium hard. I don't think the two stop is very efficient round COTA, but say the game does highly suggest for one stop. And so the drivers are reforming back on the start grid. And so hopefully their tyres are all nicely warmed up, ready for turn one. So interesting point for turn one. Very spicy corner, that uphill hairpin left. 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 4 light, 5 lights, and ladies and gentlemen, we have it green lights. I think Persegidi gets a good start. ABT Passi hot on his heels into turn 1. Who's going to stay in front? Both of Red Bulls going side by side. I see Tezik, not quite sure what happened to him. He's still stationary, but we've got a lot of drivers moving around. His first couple of corners into the technical S section. I think Tezik's been disqualified. I'm not quite sure what happened, but I'm sure we might see it in the steward's room. But a lot of drivers moving around. And so there we have it. Tezik has been removed from the session. So it's quite nice to see all the drivers still facing forward. We've got Creamer and Max Duca. I think had a little bit of a wheel tap there, but both drivers still seem to be intact without losing any body parts, which is what we'd like to see. We don't want to see Bert Maylander cruising around in that safety car. Not this early. No way. And so just position changes after the first couple of sectors of lap 1. Creamer has moved up 2 places already. Backlightyear, Simrally Monster both moved up 1. Super Jesse and Rivershan have moved up 2. Biggest loser at the moment is Solid Ninja Snake, dropping 2 places. Phoenix has lost out on 1 position as well. So the man on a mission, Persegidi, has moved up nearly a second on P2 already. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Mr. Mouchelane having a big snap on the exit of the final corner. He still seems to be facing the right way without any body damage. So he's now dropped heavily down the order. Got Rivershan and Super Jesse going at it side by side. Super Jesse does kind of stick his nose out as he's got the better line, but then it then plays into Rivershan's book. So not quite the best camera angle to give that fight, but Rivershan does stick his nose in front. A very, very tricky sector, that sector 1, as I can't stress enough. So if you get stuck behind someone, you've kind of got to stick out unless you are bold and brave enough to stick a move. It would be an absolute sensational move if you could do that. And we've got Creamer going for a move down the back straight. A lot of drivers, Creamer and Gulmarv having a bit of a fight. Oh, there's a bit of a fight there. They're all going to keep relatively out of each other's gearboxes. So Creamer is all over the back of the Red Bull of ABT Pasty. Gulmarv all over the back of Creamer. And so Pedro just trying to chase down Persegidi, but Persegidi is nearly pulled out, just under a 2-second gap already. So a lot of drivers getting settled into their rhythm of this 50% race, lap 2 of 28. Persegidi setting a back-to-back fastest lap. Excuse me. DRS has now been re-enabled, or sorry, re-enabled, has been enabled, start of the race. Caught me tongue as I said that. Backlightyear all over the back of Solid Ninja Snake. We didn't quite get a move done into turn 1, but he's going to stay behind him through the S section here. And so I can't stress enough, if you are stuck behind someone, do be patient before you stick a move. You've got Creamer trying to chase down that Red Bull. He's going to get DRS. Is he going to get a move done? I think he is. He's going to charge up that DRS, get it wide open down the straight. Yes, he is. He's going to get that move done. So he's now got 1 Red Bull down, 1 to go to try chase. Oh, big lock up from Creamer there. Oh, I think he had a little bit of a tap from Pasty from behind. Let's say both drivers still facing the right way, which is great to see. But oh, Pasty all out of shape. Fighting Gulmarv, rubbing his racing, motor racing. Michael Massey, what is going on? The Red Bull having taps all over the place, but say all drivers still seem to be in one piece. Creamer having a little bit of a breather from what was going on behind him. So Gormov itching to get past this Red Bull. So both drivers will have DRS in this big DRS train that we currently have. So down into turn 1. Gormov trying to get past AVT Passy. We've got Max Duca hot on the heels of Gormov. So we will try to keep all eyes on all the battles that we can see and give you guys the best experience we can, but say do not crucify me or caps lock me to death, you keyboard warriors. We do not have the mighty Wolfafa this evening, so I am trying my best. We've got team orders from Haas. Maybe we've got Haas sitting in a respectable P8, P9. Is there going to be any orders from them, as is their home circuit of the America? Sorry, the Americas even. Oh, runny nose, don't start now. Super Jesse going for a move. No, he's not. He's going to think better of it onto Rivershan. So you got Max Duca still trying to itch past Gormov. There's a very nice line there from Max Duca, keeping that door very close to Gormov. So rounding these tricky couple of corners in sector 3, rounding the final corner, Max Duca is all over the back of Gormov. So drivers still having DRS in this massive DRS train at the moment. And so Pedro still just about hanging on to the same gap to Persegidi, just a second and a half at the moment. So Creamer is just under a second to Pedro, so Creamer will... Oh, hello. Not quite sure what happened there, but so there's a bit of a tap from the Alfa Romeo and the Alpine. Not quite sure what happened there, but we might see it in the stewards room, but say might have just jinxed it. Creamer was under a second to Pedro, so he would have got DRS to take the fight to him. But now AVT Pasti is hot on the heels of Creamer in this massive DRS train. Who's going to make a move down this back straight? I don't see any flashbang sun just yet, but so the sun isn't going to blind any of our drivers. Who's going to make a move? We've got AVT Pasti. Is he going to make a move? Yes, he is. Very nicely done down the back straight. That now takes the Red Bulls back to P2, P3. Creamer just slightly behind. So we've got Gormov. I might have just missed that as well. Gormov did overtake Max Duca. Or Max Duca just trying to hang on to the back of this. And so it'd be interesting to see if the undercut this evening or the overcut is going to be stronger around COTA. Let us know what you guys think, whether it's worth staying out on the tyres or whether it's worth coming in for the fresher ones. Whether it's pretty self-explanatory or it's interesting to see what strategy is going to come into play, which is going to work for our drivers this evening. Whether we're going to see any of the S word coming out, the safety car of Bertie doing those parade laps. Nicely done through the drivers of the S section here. All the drivers, no safety cars just yet, but I don't want to jinx it. Lap 6 of 28. There's a big train of cars as it stands. Gormov is chasing down Creamer. There's a big DRS train. Gormov all over the back of Creamer. Oh, excuse me, hiccups. I can't shake these hiccups, but I'm trying my best. Gormov going for a move on Creamer down the straight. All the drivers having a DRS open at the moment. Creamer's going to go for a switch. No, he's not. Gormov takes P4. Max Duca is still hanging on to this train. But Creamer's teammate of Back Lightyear is still just 2 seconds behind this. And so Persegidi has pulled a gap of just 2 seconds to Pedro. We've got Max Duca trying to get a move done on Creamer. Creamer had a bit of a moment there, round into the second to last corner. And still seems to keep his nose in front. His big DRS train is helping him massively. So it's the thing with these cars, so all the guys, I'm pretty sure, don't run any assists, so when you do do flick onto them, all you can hear is that gearbox and that F1 engine roaring in your ear, which is great to hear, what we want to hear, and great to see. And all the drivers, say, are settling into their rhythm now, and lap 27 of 28. So is there going to be any switches and changes down the straight? Not quite sure. I think Gourmar's just a little way away from getting a move done on the Red Bull. Is there going to be any team orders from Haas? No, there's not. I think they're too slightly far behind. Gourmar is desperate to get past these Red Bulls if he wants to keep his championship fight alive against Persegili. Oh, excuse me, hiccups once again. So Gourmar is all over the back of this Red Bull coming around turn 20 of this DRS train. So Pedro is just going to try drag his teammate along. Is there going to be any team orders from the Red Bull? They're nearly going to go side by side into turn 1. Not quite sure what's going on there. Gourmar is trying to capitalise of that very muchly. Is there going to be a bit of contact? Although just about keep their wheels out from each other. They're going to go side by side. Or there must have been a big tap there. Gourmar just about does well enough to keep his car clean out of that contact there from the Red Bulls. Pedro's all over the place now. Gourmar just about sticking his nose in front. He's now going to be vulnerable to Creamer behind. Creamer then gets a move done as well. The DRS detection point is coming into play for this straight. Max Duca is also in on this. He's going to get the DRS as well. All these drivers are fighting for that DRS just to give themselves an extra speed boost down this straight. Is there going to be changes? I don't think so. There's a big lock up from the Red Bull. We went very deep. Gourmar sticks his nose in front, gets a great move into P2. Max Duca does get a move done onto Creamer. Not quite sure what happened there, but we've got Pedro slipping and sliding all over the place. Oh my! Oh, there's a bit of a tap in, wheel banging, motor racing there, but Max Duca just about in the middle of that sandwich. Alfa Romeo filling. I don't see any damage or debris or any drivers missing any end plates at the moment, so no mention for a safety car. But we've got Creamer diving into the pits, the first driver to pit this evening, and so we might see some of those love taps and taps of that Sector 2 carnage in the stewards room. So if you do want to keep on board with the stewards reports, do make sure you do hit that like button, that follow button, and so I'm sure the admins will include a Discord link to the server so you guys can keep a track of all the stewards reports that do go on in and around the track, especially our other games that we do have, if that's what you're interested in. So we've got Gourmar, who's just under 5 seconds to Persegili, and as I just say that, there's a yellow flag. I'm quite sure what happened there. So we've got Pedro all out of shape, down into P10 now. He was a man that was P2. He's now P10, nearly out of the points. Backlight, yeah, making a great move on Sim Rally Monster to take P5. Is he now going to... Solid Intersnake also on the back of his teammate. So it's interesting to see whether team orders comes into play in these championships, or whether it's every man for himself, or sorry, man or woman for himself. So a lot of drivers are getting settled into their rhythm. Now the train has slightly split up ever so slightly. So a lot of drivers are now going to have to use racecraft and strategy to try and chase the driver down in front. Pedro, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's not ideal. So he won't be able to serve that this pit stop as well. He'd either have to pit again or take his penalty all the way to the end and get it added on his final finishing time. AVT Pasty, another Red Bull driver, 3-second penalty. The first driver to pick up a 3-second penalty for track limits. It's all going wrong at Red Bull. So there's a big train at the moment from P5 all the way down to P9. So Persegili is just going for a Sunday drive. He is 5 seconds in front of the car behind at the moment. So this big train down the back straight. We've got Sim Rally Monster making a move on back Lightyear. Oh, it's a double Haas move. That's a great move from both the Haases there. Sim Rally Monster and Solid Ninja Snake both get a move done on Sim Rally Monster. Oh, sorry, on back Lightyear. I'm pretty sure Gene Haas would have approved of that if Gunther was still been there. Maybe there would have been a Hulk smashing of a door somewhere, but say both the Haases are into P5 and P6. Great move from both the lads there. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mushlane is all over the back of Mr. Rivershan. So he's, oh no, Mr. Smooth is going to dive into the pits. He's going to mug off Retro. Coming down into turn 1, very tricky corner, this uphill hairpin left. So coming down this technical swinging side to side. Who's going to make or break into the sector? I'm surprised to see all the drivers have only had one set of 3-second penalty warnings just yet. We still are early doors, lap 11 of 28. So I'm sure as the race hots up towards the end, we might see a few more penalties that might help or hinder some people's positions. Oh, excuse me, burps are coming out, the hiccups have stopped. I don't think anyone's close enough for a move down the back straight. We might have Phoenix make a move on Super Jesse. That's the closest fight we've got down the back straight. Is Phoenix going to get a move done? I don't think he's quite close enough to get a move done. No, he's not. So we do have back Lightyear trying to chase down those Haases. They did a lovely little double overtake down that straight just previously, a lap before. And so tyre strategy is going to start to come into play as these tyres are going to start coming to life or start dropping off. So it's either who's going to make or break for the undercut or stay out for the overcut. We've got AVT Pasty just under a second to Gulmarv. So don't forget he is now carrying that 3-second penalty. We've got Super Jesse diving into the pits. Creamer setting another fastest lap, or did I see someone else set the fastest lap? Oh no, that's not the one we wanted. Fastest lap, no it was Creamer. Creamer to 136.6 at the moment. So Creamer is currently the man with the fastest lap at the moment. And so I'm sure Persegili might have something to say about that, where every point counts in the championship fight. The man is currently 6 seconds in front of his championship rival Gulmarv in P2, but AVT Pasty is trying to get past Gulmarv. And I say don't forget he is carrying that 3-second penalty. He might win it on track, but say penalties might come into play towards the end. They both the Haases still keeping up this respectable P5 and P6. We do have back Lightyear trying to chase this down, Rivershant as well. Oh, not quite sure what happened there. We had Rivershan make a move on back light, and they've just switched places. Not quite sure what happened there. So I'm sure anything that may happen in the stream, we may see in the steward's room. So all the drivers are getting settled into their rhythm now. So quite a big spread out compared to what the DRS trains were earlier. So Persegili is just hanging on to the back of Gulmar for that DRS. We've got Creamer switching places with Phoenix. Not quite sure whether that was fair or legit. Who knows? But say we will try and get as much of the action as we can. ABT Passy desperate for a move on Gulmarv to take back that P2. Bit of a lock up from Gulmarv, leaving himself slightly vulnerable to ABT Passy behind him. We've got Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mooshlane, maybe a bit of team orders from the Alpine, does overtake his teammate Phoenix, so moving him up into P10. So a lot of drivers are just hanging on to that DRS whilst it's still open. Is there going to be any more drivers to pit? Yes, Solid Ninja Snake does dive into the pits. Oh, we got to go for a fight. I just missed that. ABT Passy goes for a great move on the inside of Gulmarv. Has Gulmarv got anything to reply with that? We just about flicked onto the end of that. ABT Passy went for an insane move on the inside. So it'd be interesting to see whether it was fair, whether Gulmarv left the door slightly open, but he is all over the back of this Red Bull. I think he's going to get the move done down the back straight. He is all over the back of this Red Bull gearbox. Just about keeps his wing out of the gearbox of that Red Bull, as we just mentioned. But so I think he is going to get the move done down the back straight. Is ABT Passy got enough rocket in that Red Bull to defend himself? No, he doesn't, but Gulmarv does take the position of P2 back. And so now these two are fighting. We do have Max Duca ever slightly closing in the gap. So these drivers fighting it out in front. ABT Passy is trying to stick with Gulmarv, so not quite sure what happens to his teammate Pedro, but so Pedro is still hanging in there in P10 at the moment. Well, Gulmarv does dive into the pits. That does mean ABT Passy takes back P2. Max Duca is now going to take P3 provisionally. A lot of drivers are going to be moving around as pit strategy does take its course. Lap 15 of 28. A mass amount of drivers still do need to pit. So it'd be interesting to see who decides to stay out or come in. So take a quick drink before my throat decides to burn out and die again. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mooshlane all over the back of Gulmarv. So Gulmarv has just pitted for those fresher tyres. Apologies about that. Just got to stay hydrated. That's very important. So Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mooshlane didn't quite stick with Gulmarv, but say Gulmarv has just pitted for those fresher tyres, which is going to give him the upper hand. So Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mooshlane did close the gap quite considerably down that back straight, even without DRS. So maybe there's a bit of a Alpine magic there somewhere. So I think that is probably our closest battle at the moment, just under a second. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mooshlane from Gulmarv. So there's a few drivers, Max Duca and Rivershan, diving into the pits. Sim Rally Monster has jumped up into P3. And Creamer, I think, has stayed out. Yes, he has. Solid Ninja Snake on the mediums with a 36.612 with the fastest lap. It's a great lap from him. So I know the previous fastest lap was a 136.6, so it must have just marginally been ever so slightly faster than Creamer's previous one. So Solid Ninja Snake has currently the fastest lap of the race at lap 16. So a lot of drivers, as they are starting to pit. Oh, we've got Gormov trying to chase down Creamer. I think he's going to get a move done down this back straight. Who's going to be the bravest on the brakes? Gormov getting a very nice exit all over the back of that Aston Martin. So the helicopter shot is going to try come into play. Is he going to get a move done? Yes, he is. He's just about sticking his AlphaTauri in front of that Aston Martin. And yes, I meant to say helicopter shot. That wasn't the shot that I wanted, but say here we are. Gormov has made the move on Creamer. So Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mulchlane is just ever so slightly too far. Ooh, that's going to throw a spanner into the works. Persegili has picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Mr. Pole Sitter, unbelievably, has just picked up a 5-second penalty. I don't think that's going to affect him too much, to be fair. But say AVT Passy has provisionally taken P1, as Persegili has only dropped 1 place from pitting. So I think a lot of drivers are going to start diving into the pits now. Yeah, there's only, say, 1 driver left, 2 pits, which I'm not going to name who still needs to pit due to streaming purposes, in case some of the drivers are listening and watching to the stream, just so you can't get an upper hand advantage. And so we've got Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mulchlane trying to chase down Solid Ninja Snake. Rivershan is desperately trying to chase down this Aston Martin of Backlight, yeah. And so we've got Sim Rally Monster trying to chase down Rivershan. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mulchlane, Mr. Smooth getting the DRS wide open to try to chase down Solid Ninja Snake. Excuse me. So I work being a commentator apparently. Can't stop yawning. Oh, we've got Rivershan who's just made a move on Backlight here down that back straight. We just missed that, so I was too busy yawning. Okay, Solid Ninja Snake is trying to chase down Creamer from one Aston Martin to the other. There's tricky sector 3 part. Coming around these last couple of corners for his DRS. Solid Ninja Snake is all over the back of this Aston Martin. So the last driver to pit has pitted. Gormov taking the fastest lap with a 136.1. Max Duca then interrupts up with a 136.0. Rivershan with a 135.8. Everyone setting fastest laps, ladies and gentlemen. This is just how much tyre comes into play for strategy this late on in the race. Lap 18 of 28. I think the fastest lap changed about 4 times in the space of about 2 seconds then. Just to prove how close this is now coming in and alive of this fight. So Persegili is now out in front, 5 seconds in front of Gormov, but don't forget he has got a 5-second penalty, so as it stands Gormov is only 3/10 behind the race leader. I've got Solid Ninja Snake making a move on Creamer down the start straight with DRS. Is anyone else going to make a move? Got Rivershan making a move on the Red Bull of Pedro. And so that big DRS straight does have some significant advantages of speed, as it is a DRS straight, so you do get a very nice speed boost down there to create some great moves. Max Duca is all over the back of Creamer, essentially pushing Creamer around. Not quite sure what happened there, but Persegili does break the fastest lap into a 1:34.4. And speaking of Alfa Romeos, we've got Super Jesse into, I think, off track, but does kind of keep it facing forwards. He does say move out of the way of Phoenix, as he might have just ever so slightly impeded him. And Max Duca gets the move done onto Creamer into turn 1. Not quite sure if there's a bit of contact there, but Max Duca does stay in front. So tyre strategy will come heavily into play this late on in the race, whether say drivers want to gamble for that hidden word of Bert Maylander making an appearance to upset any form of strategy. So these drivers are getting very, very bunched up together. I will try my absolute best to give you the best I can, but say 13 drivers to remain. This late on, there is a big train down this back straight. Is anyone going to get your moves done? I don't think so. I think Pedro just might have slightly been too behind, but Sim Rally Monster might get a move done on Pedro. I think back Lightyear just might be a sit and duck to this double overtake on DRS, but will they both move across? They're going to get it done. I need a better camera angle than that. Back Lightyear, I think, unfortunately just misses out on that. I couldn't get a camera angle to suit. I say Pedro and Sim Rally Monster do overtake back Lightyear. I'm not sure what's going on with this camera angle, but say Max Duca is now all over the gearbox of Solid Interstate. Is he going to get a move done down the start straight? I think he might do. Has got DRS. Solid Interstate's got nothing to defend himself apart from a good healthy battery. If it's still working, but say Max Duca does overtake Solid Interstate into turn 1. Sim Rally Monster, is he going to get a move done on Pedro? He's going to go electing round the outside. This could be sensational. Great move from him round the outside into turn 1. Solid Interstate is just about hanging on to the back of Max Duca. So back Lightyear is hanging on to Pedro. ABT Pasty, Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane, back Lightyear, the second driver to pick up a 3-second penalty, but ABT Pasty gets a very nice move on the inside of Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane down the back straight. Is he now going to get DRS? Yes, he is. He swooped in round Mr. Smooth and took DRS down the back straight. That was a great move from him. A Solid Interstate didn't quite get a move done down the back straight. Is anyone else going to get one? Don't quite think so. So no sign of any Bert Lander cars approved yet, so which is great to see, just to prove how good and brilliant these guys are at racing. No sign of any form of safety car at the moment. I don't want to jinx it with a commentator's curse, but lap 21 of 28. Persegili is 7.5 seconds nearly in front of P2. He does have a 5-second penalty, but I don't think that's going to phase him too much. We've got ABT Pasty and Creamer going at it round into turn 1. ABT Pasty sticks his nose out round the outside. Excuse me, Creamer still just about hanging on. Creamer then picks up a 3-second penalty because of that move. Are we going to see it on an appeal in the Shields room? I say do make sure you do smash that like button and comment and subscribe. And say we will give you an update next week whether Creamer will appeal or take that 3-second for slightly being pushed wide from ABT Pasty. And so space is due to be given, but say be interesting to see whether there is an appeal or not. So I think all these drivers are slightly too far out for a move. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mouchelane locking up those brakes. Back Lightyear got a move done on Pedro. Just about saw the glimpse of that on the leaderboard. So these drivers, fantastic display this evening. And say keeping it all facing forward. So tricky tight corners of COTA Circuit of the Americas. So no sign of any funny looking cars that make you drive slow. See, I said it, didn't even curse it. And we got Rivershan making a move into turn 1 on Creamer. All's a bit of a wheel bang there. That's sent Creamer slightly wide, but still keeps it on the tarmac in the middle. I think Creamer just needs to keep his head down this late on in the race to try salvage whatever he can. So Max Duke has pulled out a great gap from Solid Ninja Snake. AVT Pasty all over the back of Solid Ninja Snake. Can Solid Ninja Snake fend him off down his back straight, or is AVT Pasty going to go for a move on the inside? Yes, he is. Sends one down the inside using all the curbing on the exit. Practically side by side on the exit, switching paces like a yo-yo. So I think, yeah, AVT Passy's got that DRS down the straight. He's going to flick him behind him. Creamer's then going to get a move done onto Rivershan. So all the drivers staying relatively in touch. Pedro then overtakes back Lightyear once again. So AVT Pasty's got his work cut out for him if he wants to keep the Red Bull chances of a good points finish. Just under 3-second gap to Max Duca. So a lot of drivers are going to start feeling the burn of the tyre wear. So lap 23 of 28. This big train as it stands from, say, Solid Ninja Snake all the way to Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mushlane. 4 positions at the moment. Or even if you wanted to count AVT Pasty, if they can catch him as well. Just a giant multicoloured caterpillar this late on in the race could be fantastic to see. Who's going to go for the moves, who's going to keep it smooth, who's going to keep it patient. As I say, that of a Red Bull, Pedro does pick up a 3-second penalty. A lot of penalties being handed out this late on in the race, which is as per usual to see on Circuit of the Americas. So who's going to make any moves down the back straight? Is there going to be any moves done? We've got Rivershan trying to overtake Creamer, but then we've got Sim Rally Monster also behind with the DRS. We've got Rivershan. Is he going to make a move? Creamer selects for the inside to send him round the outside. Is he going to get a move done? But then Rivershan then has the inside for the next corner. Rivershan gets a great move done on Creamer there. Sim Rally Monster is also on the back of the gearbox of Creamer. So it's very respectable driving from all the drivers so far. So Creamer losing out on the back straight to then have Sim Rally Monster almost then take advantage as well. That's rounding turn 20. This nice DRS straight as well is going to help Creamer to try and take back that position of P6. I don't think he's going to quite get a move done. He does close the door quite to consider. He spots his point of turning for turn 1. Very nicely done. So tyres are definitely going to feel that sector 1 this late on in the race. Switching the weight of the car ever so quickly through those corners. The car's going to feel it ever so much lap after lap. And so Sim Rally Monster is gaining quickly on the back of Creamer. And so his DRS train is still going to keep itself alive once again. We've got AVT Passy taking chunks out of the gap from Max Duca, just under 1.5 seconds. So we've got a big train here. Who's going to make a move? We've got Creamer. Looks like he's going to try and make a move. I think he's just slightly too far back. And Rivershan does shut the door. We've got back Lightyear fighting with Pedro. This camera angle is not helping me at all whatsoever, but so we do have Pedro and back Lightyear fighting it out for the final point of the P10. So we'll try to keep on board with all the battles we possibly can, but so back Lightyear is all over the back of that Red Bull. Bit of a slip and a slide around turn 19 into turn 20. Getting that DRS, is it going to help him down into turn 1? Hey, flicking onto the drivers to try to give you as much of the action as we can these last couple of laps. So ABT Pasty is ever so slightly closing on Max Duca, but Max Duca's just about keeping him outside of DRS. He's just got to hold on for 3 more laps to secure himself a place on that podium. Ooh, nearly a big lockup would have happened there from Creamer. Nearly going into the back of Rivershan in that tight hairpin corner. So we've got ABT Pasty just under a second to Max Duca now. It's a big lockup from ABT Pasty. Is there going to be any moves in position? No, there's not. Creamer gets the door closed once again from Rivershan. Back Lightyear and Pedro changing places down the back straight. Not quite sure what's going on with this camera angle, but it's not very helpful, so we will have to try and manipulate the onboard cameras the best we can. Not sure if it's a game problem or camera problem, but say back Lightyear and Pedro are battling it out for that final top 10 finish. Is anyone going to make a move into turn 1? No, I think these drivers know it's going to be make or break time soon. Lap 26 of 28. Going to try save up and make a move these last few laps. So Phoenix does pick up a 3-second penalty. And we've got Max Duca, who's now just under a second to ABT Pasty. Is ABT Pasty going to get DRS down the straight? Yes, he is. That's not what Max Duca would have wanted these last couple of laps. And so we've got Rivershan flying past Solid Ninja Snake. And we've got Creamer in the middle once again. We've got Haas of Sim Rally Monster all over the back of Creamer. ABT Pasty all over the back of Max Duca. Can Max Duca just fend him off this last lap? The last 2 laps here, because I think Persegini's crossed the line. There's 2 more laps. Can Max Duca hold on? I don't think he can, but we will keep an eye on it. This big train, this DRS train down the back straight. Is anyone going to make a move into turn 1? We've got Creamer going for a great move on the inside of Solid Ninja Snake to retake P6 on lap 27 or 28. We've got ABT Pasty trying to chase down Max Duca. Just to try and flick through the pack. All the drivers are the same distance roughly to the car in front, so I will try my absolute best to give you all the battles that's going to unfold this last lap and a half. And so Persegini does have a 5-second penalty. Not that's going to matter, but we do have ABT Pasty making a move on Max Duca down the back straight. He's going to get the move nice and done before the breaking point of the corner. And so Persegini is 13 seconds in front of P2. ABT Pasty has just retaken that position off Max Duca for the podium. But if Max Duca can keep his nose clean, ABT Pasty does have a penalty. And so we will just mention penalties. ABT Pasty has a 3-second penalty. Rivershan, Creamer, Pack Lightyear and Phoenix all have 3-second penalties. Pedro has 11 seconds of penalties. So I think unfortunately Max Duca sat behind the wrong Red Bull. If he was sat behind Pedro, then he knew that his position of P3 would be nice and secure, but his final lap, he's got to stay within inside that 3-second gap to Max Duca to get those time back for the final place on the podium. Creamer is all over the back of Rivershan. Both drivers carry a 3-second penalty. Very tight through the S's. All the drivers keeping it ready. Oh, excuse me. Make up and yawn. Lovely. Who's going to make or break down the back straight? It's last attempt. Rivershan goes desperately wide. All over the edge, and I think so does a Haas in the background. I think Max Duca's just about hanging on as it stands. Got Creamer making a move onto Rivershan. Just rounding these corners into Sector 2. Can Max Duca hold on for P3? We've got Creamer and Rivershan going at it into the tricky part of Sector 2. Persegili gets a 5-second penalty added on. So I just missed that, but Persegili does take P1, but so we will keep on board these last few corners. There's quite a few big battle behind. I don't think anyone's going to make any desperate moves into the final corner. Are they going to? No, they're not. I think that's all going to stay relatively forward, but Max Duca does overtake. Sim Rally Monster Solid Sake do jump up places after penalties. So if you can keep your nose clean round COTA, you can definitely guarantee yourself some positions. So Pedro, with quite a few penalties, does stay in the position that he did. But so we do have the man himself. We didn't give him too much spotlight, but say the man on a mission, Persegili, taking P1. He was 15 seconds in front towards the end. A fantastic display from him. So not quite sure what happened with his Mercedes teammate, or whether he wants Rising Moon back from Portugal. I say Persegili does take P1. I say interesting to see who does get the fastest lap. The game does give Creamer driver of the day, but I don't think I will do that. So we will go over the stand-ins once the game decides to load me the menu and I can show it to you. So we do have Creamer, and then we do have Gulmarv, and we do have Max Duca finishing the podium on the top 3. Fantastic drive from all the drivers. Max Duca just about held on towards the end. I think his tyres must have dropped off massively, but he just about kept in the gap from AVT Pasti, so he does round out a top 3 finish. And so there we have it. Persegili started in first, finished in first. Of course he did. Greg, if you'd have put money on it, you'd have got a nice return. But he does take fastest lap maximum points with a 134.4. Gulmarv P2, started P4 but finished P2. Great from him. Max Duca started P7 and finished P3. Cracking result from him. AVT Pasti P4. Sim Rally Monster P5. Solid Ninja Snake P6. Mr. Smooth, Mr. Mushlane P7. Creamer P8. Rivershan P9, Backlight Year P10, Pedro P11, Phoenix P12, Super Jesse P13, Tezik, not quite sure what happened to Tezik in the beginning, but Tezik P14, he didn't start the feature race. I think if I had to give commentator award, I think I probably would have to give it to Max Duca, and say he did put on a fantastic show, and say he did hold out on those softs towards the end, and say great P3 for him, he must be over the moon. And so, if you aren't always aware, do stay tuned. Sundays at 8 PM. We do have round 10 next week, and if I can get my phone to load up very quickly to show you or tell you what we do have next week. Technology, you can't live with it and you can't live without it. We do have next week, we've got Qatar, so stay tuned. Sunday, 8 o'clock on a Sunday UK time. I've been Retro Ghost with Fafa. Mr. Sick Note has not been here this week, but hopefully he will be back next week. Take care, folks. Good night.